and welcome to the Ink Archive. My name is Briar, and I am joined here with Tyler as we are going into our quarterfinals of our set champs for Arcasia's Island, and we have some great matches here today. And go ahead and tell us who we have here in our quarterfinals, Tyler.
Hey everybody, so today we have on our left-hand side will be our player one. This is Briar, and then on our right-hand side we have George. Our Briar is on, I believe, it is Amber Steel, Diggy as it's affectionately referred to. More of like an aggressive Amber Steel pile with a few singers to help the early game and help them get a board presence and win the game pretty fast. And then George is on typical Ruby Sapphire right now with the Sharks and the Pirates Life, looking to ramp up and either win the game through sticking a couple of McDuck manners or hoping that the shark can stick around and get a couple Pirates Life off to win the game.
Yeah, and it looks like that we have Briar here. He is going to be going first because he did have the higher seat here. Because that is how they are doing their top 8 is whoever has the highest seat gets to go first. And Briar got to go first here, and that's great for the Diggy deck. Trying to bring out that aggro. And these two guys are really good friends, so they kind of know each other. They've been playtesting with each other, so they know the ins and outs of each other's deck a little bit. So he knows that his opponent's playing red-blue. So he wants to aggro out as quick as he can to get those daisies what he looks for. And it looks like he missed a daisy. He missed his 1-drop. Wow.
Yeah, it can be a little brutal to be missing 1-drops, especially, I mean, to be honest, Daisy's like the only 1-drop you really care to see here. Cinderella and Happy aren't super amazing. They just don't quest for a lot, and you really just want to close the game before they build to like a mass in their inkwell. But I think if you go like turn 4, you play 2-drops and just start actually like attempting to end the game there, it is fine. So we'll have to see how it proceeds from here. Missing a 2-drop on turn 2 though is a little rough for Amber Steel.
I mean, it looks like he had a 2-drop. It looks like he has 2 docks in his hand, which was not something I don't know if really is playable because it looks like he also has a Lawrence in there. And now he has 2 strength and a mine as well. So it seemed like it was kind of rough, just that whole opening hand, and looked like he mulliganed quite a bit too, and still didn't get to see what he wanted, which kind of sucked for him. While we have George here, he's got, even though he's played Azurite, the Sea here, or Sail of the Azurites, and being able to ink, and now he can go into some a 4-drop and plays super goof here and taking out that Cinderella to put some lore on the board and taking care of those early aggro options.
Yeah, so something to reference, looking at the deck list of both players, George is actually fully on Super Goof at 4, which is not something you usually see with these Ruby Sapphire decks. Coming into the event, was pretty sure that he expected to see a lot more aggressive decks coming from players. So he teched into it a little bit more with 4 Super Goofs, and I believe he's on a couple of Scars, giving up a couple of slots for Sisu, which is super interesting.
Yeah, no, that was definitely an interesting thing, and he definitely teched for the meta here at House Rules, and trying to just see what the meta is and playing that deck just so he can get that advantage. And I mean, he's in top 8, and it definitely shows why.
Yeah, he's an extremely strong player. He's been playing this deck for a long time, really enjoys it. I know I spoke with him before this event, and he's been trying a couple of different things. I know he was on Brawls at one point um, for Ruby Sapphire, and I'm surprised that he came off of them for more Super Goofs. But we do see a Maui coming down with this Lawrence, and it's super interesting. Not taking any damage with this Maui, so it's going to stick around for a really long time, which is not super amazing for Amber Steel, especially with the slower start they've had. We'll have to see how we play through this Maui.
Yeah, it looks like we were playing the Jafar, the giving Challenger to the dock here, and then moving dock to the mines to then deal the 2 damage to that Maui, and then just sacrificing that dock into the Maui, so it doesn't take out the location the following turn, which kind of right now the location is kind of needed just to help give you that lore gain to aggro out a little bit till you find something to at least passively gain some lore here.
Yeah, I think the hope here is that it diverts some amount of attention from characters. Because like last turn, he could have attacked it with the Maui instead of taking out the Lawrence. Obviously, Lawrence is a little bit more of a threat, but having to divide your attention between either the locations or characters is something that Amber Steel can do to kind of curb some of the answers from Ruby Sapphire, especially in the terms of like be prepared, which is good for them.
Now it looks like we finally can get some characters on board. We've dropped a Lawrence and another dock here, drawing the 2 cards, putting Amber Steel back with 2 cards in their hand, and hopefully getting him some good stuff. It looks like he's got another dock in hand though, and one more, or no, a Shmi and a Jafar in hand, and then now we have the Ruby Sapphire player playing another goof, super goof, and knocking out the Jafar to gain even more lore.
Yeah, this is a tough spot because you don't really want to leave these super goofs alive because it's what's like keeping Ruby Sapphire in this game. But Amber Steel wants to progress its sports state and just try to end this game. And it's kind of hard with the super goof on the board. So it's a matter of, do you take out the super goof and give up this Lawrence? Or do you just quest with it and kind of let it happen? Which is interesting.
Yeah. So it looks like we have a Happy here. Happy comes down, gets moved, dealing some damage here with these mine. So we're going to put the 2 damage course on the goof here and having that dock knock it out.
Pretty heads up, being able to keep the dock alive, while being able to like push some lore here.
Yeah, no, keeping the dock alive from attacking that super goof is really good. That 3 willpower on dock is really nice, challenging into some things that can be hard to deal with at times with some of the bigger characters. And goof only having 2 strength doesn't knock out dock, which is great.
Yeah, and it's not like Doc was. I mean, it's questing, but it's not questing for enough to really matter. So being able to just throw it into something. Now this is brutal. Losing an entire board to this Sisu here is pretty brutal. Hopefully he can climb back into this game. He's got a couple threats to deploy here, which is nice. And I don't know how many cards the Ruby Sapphire player has in their hand, but he does have a shark. I did just see that, which can be kind of scary here.
I believe there's 3 to 4
Easy.
cards left. Yeah, he has 3 cards. He looks like he has
3.
a McDuck, another shark, and how far I go into his hand.
Gotcha. Yeah, this is gonna be tough to fight through. This Diggy just doesn't have a great way to fight through a shark. Um, Especially since this mine just isn't gonna live long enough to be able to ping it down. Um, so this is like what makes this matchup extremely hard. It creates this board stall. Right now, I think it's lucky enough that George does not have any kind of crazy good actions in there other than like more ramp. And I think it's like Sail the Azurite Sea is in the discard right now. I think that's about it. And maybe a Develop Your Brain. And those aren't the scariest things to be going and getting right now. So even if he does open himself to being attacked, it's not the worst. It's more that does George have a Pirate's Life in his hand?
Yeah, that was it. Didn't look like he played any other actions that helped him kind of get closer to either wiping the board or gaining more lure, like the Pirate's Life or B prep. So he's only got those things that let him ramp or draw cards. There's nothing really in there to knock out the full board. But as we see here, we have the Amber Steel player here, taking out that Sisu and making it so it doesn't get to knock out any of the other characters or quests for 3, and then having the Shmi here, and then of course now Penny gave that Shmi the one resist, which doesn't take. So now Shmi doesn't take that extra damage, which I don't know if it really matters, but it's there in case if something comes down trying to knock it out. Even though we have this shark that can easily knock it out anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's a trigger you have to use anyway, so you might as well put it on the thing and let not take damage. But I think you're correct in that I don't think it's super relevant here. So yeah, I think there's a how far I'll go, a develop your brain, and a sail the Azurite Sea in the discard. So nothing too super threatening from Ruby Sapphire here. He could go get like how far I'll go back, and sing it with the shark, which is, or I guess he can't because he has to attack, but he can go get that and set up for Grammatala next turn and have her sing it if he really wants to. He could go get Sail the Azurite Sea as just a way to draw some cards. It'll be interesting to see what he does here.
So we get to play this popsicle here and drawing a card, and then of course we have the shark taking out the Shmi, grabbing a action from the discard, and we are going to be grabbing out the how far go, so you can sing it with that Grammatala the following turn, and then popping the popsicle to heal that shark from the damage that he just got from Shmi.
Yeah. This is a rough position to be in for Amber Steel here. Getting 2 locations down is nice. It does mean that Ruby Sapphire or George needs to start taking these locations out, but seeing as the Briar's not deploying any other like threats here, he has a pretty easy way to just kind of start whittling these locations down.
Yeah, there's not. I mean, the Briar here doesn't really have a hand, so I mean, he's just top deck mode at this point, and not really top decking the best. I mean, just drew the second mine and got to play it, and that was pretty much about it. And then moving the character to hopefully deal some damage to kind of whittle down this shark, and hopefully maybe grabbing either like a dock or a happy to move it hopefully to one of the mines to deal even more damage to close it out. And then choosing not to quest with this Penny is good too, so he doesn't grab back the shark doesn't grab back another action if it gets knocked out. So now he has to focus either on taking care of the locations or just questing up to go. And of course, here's that second shark that we saw in his hand earlier. So now this is going to be very painful for Briar here trying to win this game.
Yeah, this one's looking pretty locked up if I had to guess. With the how far I'll go, he's still got in his hand. He's gonna sing right now, and he still has that McDuck Manor in his hand. I'm pretty sure that he could just also play right now, and I think that probably closes up the game if I had to guess.
Yeah, well, I mean, right now he has that Pirate's Life. He did get to play the Pirate's Life,
Yeah.
and now he gets to gain an extra 2 lure from the Sharks every time he plays an action card. So that Pirate's Life now gives him 4 lure and makes your opponent lose 2. And that's kind of huge here. It helps gets of course the George here to get 20 a lot quicker, but it also just sets back this Briar here. And those locations pretty much did nothing at this point. So he needs to try to find a way to build wide enough, but it looks like George is like far ahead anyway, where he just gets to play one more action or maybe even 2 more actions and the game's over.
Yeah, I don't see a way he fights through 2 sharks. Plus all of the additional cards that are in George's hand right now. But he could always draw a dock and hit. Crazy, I guess not.
Yep, nope. I was
Seeing the action there
16
and
is where he
closing
was
out the
sitting
game,
at.
yeah.
I think he was just waiting for that action to finish off the game, seeing if he had one in hand or not.
So Amber Steel, Briar's going on the play here. I mean, obviously he whiffed on his mulligan a little bit there. If he's looking for anything, it probably has to be just Daisy into Smee into everything that quests for 2 and has decent like strength to at least either take trades or push damage in some way here.
Yeah, that's the only real way to, I think, face off against this Ruby Sapphire deck is you just have to look for things that quest for two, and try to. I mean, even if you don't get a Shmi, you try to look for those multiple daisies if you can to hopefully maybe just go even quicker and get there as soon as you can. And of course, Ruby Sapphire is just going to do Ruby Sapphire things. It's going to try to control the board for a little bit, ramp up quick, and then just wipe the board clean. Is pretty much what they're going to be
Yeah.
doing here.
Yeah, it's interesting because this match is like it can be 50-50. It's obviously a little bit harder for Briar and on Amber Steel in general, but they can just end the game like just as Ruby Sapphire is like getting to the point where they start to actually be able to play the game. And that's what they're looking for. So these matches just end up being slugfests of one person tends to dominate the game and the other doesn't. So they're interesting matches, but they end up being a little one-sided sometimes. It's hard to have like super interactive matches when both decks are so diametrically opposed to what the other is doing.
Yeah, and it looks like we do get to see a Daisy here, which is good. So we get to see a one drop finally for them. What they wanted to see is that Daisy, but it looks like they don't really have a good two drop here following up, but we'll see. We do see George getting to play a popsicle on turn one, drawing a card, um, and it looks like he has quite a few Super Goose in hand too. It looks like there's three Super Goose, maybe at least two, could be three in there. Um, but now we get to, of course, see the Daisy do the Daisy things, being able to quest for two, and reveals a half shark, which is not fun, but it's there. And of course, now we also get to drop this Lilo, which is kind of a good thing against this Ruby Sapphire deck. Is the Lilos being able to recur itself back from the discard and just being a body on board that they have to deal with. But of course, when Shark comes out, it's a little tough to deal with.
Yeah, I am actually kind of surprised. I'm pretty sure that Briar has a Calhoun in his hand. I don't even hate playing the Calhoun on two, because it does mean that even if George plays a Super Goof here and attacks Daisy, Daisy doesn't get banished, and he can attack into um the Super Goof to gain the two lore and actually knock out the Super Goof, and it still gains him the two lore, which is like it puts George in a weird position where he's like, do I want to play the Super Goof or do I not? Lilo is also still a super great card here. I do like it into Ruby Sapphire. It can be hard to find places to get it down because, like you said, sharks can cause such an issue, but um, it's still super reliable to just have in the discard and be like, oh, I'm not actually playing anything this turn. Let me get this Lilo out.
Yeah. And we see a Lawrence coming down and going back into the Amber Steel player Briar here, seeing what he's going to possibly do. But Goof, of course, Super Goof comes down, takes out the Lilo. Saw that one coming. When you have three Super Goofs in hand, you kind of got to play that Super Goof. Deciding what we want to do with the Lilo, we decide to bring it back, and we get to draw our card for turn. And figuring out what we want to do here, there is one more ink. We have the Lawrence taking out the Super Goof. And then looks like we get to deciding if we maybe want to heal this Lawrence with the penny in hand, because it does get to heal 2 damage and give it resist. So it does give it a little bit more of a beefier body and puts it back at a 4/4 instead of this 0/4 while it has the damage on it.
Yeah. The nice thing about Daisy in this matchup is that it's gonna put a lot of things to the bottom of the deck because Ruby Sapphire just doesn't have a ton of characters. George is on a bit more characters than most Ruby Sapphire decks, but I still think that there's a density of the deck that isn't, and so putting the like if you can hit Be Prepared or even the Vitalosphere is super nice to hit. Not letting some of their non-rush characters get rushes, it can be quite scary.
Yeah, and it looks like he's actually running just under half of his deck is characters. So he can, this Daisy hits pretty much, has a 50-50 shot of hitting a non-character card. If not even actually just over 50% of hitting a non-character card. So now we see George playing, of course, the How Far I'll Go, trying to find a card, and we just ink a card and pass. Not really a whole lot George did this turn. Looks like he has a lot of higher cost cards in his hand, but I think he's going to be finishing off with this Sisu that you can see in his hand here, and seeing just pretty much clearing the board here, knocking out like 3 of the characters of the 4 characters on board. So he's going to try to save up to go for that. And we see Briar here inking the mine and playing down a dock, discarding his hand to draw the 2 new cards. So hopefully fill back up with some characters. And now just questing away, doing being aggro. So he gets a quest for 8 lore with those 4 characters, which is good. And that Daisy, of course, grabs that high percentage of above 50, grab the Pirate's Life and put it back at the bottom of the deck.
Yeah, hitting Pirate's Life is huge. It's one of the cards that Amber Steel really does not want to see. If anything, that's like the card they don't want to see. Because that's what just loses them games. Just losing the speed that they have and setting them back is huge. Even just 2 is a lot.
Oh yeah, and it looks like we're trying to debate if we want to do this Lilo or not, and it looks like Briar decides to do this Lilo, just to put some pressure on board here. And we have it looks like he has a Rapunzel and a Shmi in hand, plus a Rapunzel's Tower, to kind of do help and do some things. We have Lawrence questing for 2, trying to push him right up there to get him to 20 as quick as we can, and then inking that Rapunzel's Tower, and then potentially playing a card here and seeing what he wants to do. It looks like he might be debating trying to go wide, maybe hoping not to run into another Sisu or a B prep, and still figuring out what the math is, because he only has 2 characters, and if he doesn't put down another character here, it might be rough, because he could have a one card removal to remove the other card. So he wants to bring down that extra body to push him to 20, and it looks like I think he's at 18 lore, I believe. He's either at 16 or 18, and he just needs that extra lore with that other character to put threat on the board. And he does play that Shmi, and hoping that he doesn't have a B prep in hand, because that Shmi does survive a Sisu, but not a B prep.
Yeah, it's taking the 50-50 here. Whether you play Rapunzel or Shmi, it's do they have the B prep or do they have the Sisu in their hand? Obviously, Briar doesn't know the ins and outs of George's deck, maybe. So not knowing that George is only on 2 Sisu is a bit, like, it's not on him at this point. So he takes the 50-50 of playing this Shmi, and I don't hate it. It forces his opponent to have specifically be prepared to probably not lose the game here. Though, notably, having this Vitalisphere is pretty huge. And a Super Goof.
Yeah, the Super Goof gets to knock out this Lilo, gaining some lure to hopefully slow it
Yeah.
down. But I don't think they have that answer for that Shmi, it looks like. Because it looks like he only has a Maui. Well, he does have the Let It Go, so he could answer the Shmi if he decides to sing with it or quest with it. But it looks like he sings this Let It Go. Does get rid of the Shmi, which George is only playing 1 Let It Go in this deck. So seeing it come down and then trying to just basically clear the board here is big for George. So now he doesn't exactly, he kind of gets to push it off a little bit, so Briar doesn't get to win that exact turn. But we do get to see this Rapunzel here and a Lilo, because Lilo gets to come back with her ability to being played from the discard at the start of your turn. And then, of course, we see the Rapunzel. So now we kind of put some more pressure on board to either look for that other Sisu or the B prep to knock out this Rapunzel here.
Notably, George has like no cards in his hand at the moment, and so that's like pretty promising for Briar here. He's gonna have to chain a bunch of actions here. He does find the Be Prepared, which is good, but I don't know if he has the. He could sing it with Sisu, I guess. I don't know if he has the ink to cast it right now or to play it right now. I think he does.
That's right. I think he has 7 ink, but we're going to be utilizing that Goofy before we doing that, just so that Goofy can
Yeah.
get that extra 2 lore, and of course Sisu questing for 3 here.
Yeah, he has just enough. Luckily, that he had just enough to get to be prepared and the to develop your brains. But notably, he has 1 card in his hand now, so it's a little tougher. Again, has to have basically be prepared in order to stay in this game. I guess he could have Pirate's Life. If he has Pirate's Life, I think it keeps him in the game for like another turn. But uh, notably, that's not quite good enough.
Yeah.
This
But
Lilo has come back so many times.
yes, this Lilo has come back, but we do get this Calhoun, which it looks like he does have strength in hand, and we get to deal the final blow to that Maui to gain the final 2 lore to go to 20. That was nice to have that Calhoun at the very end, knocking out that Maui just to close it off, because it looked like George wasn't expecting that to really kill anything or to knock out that Maui that quick.
Yeah, it. I mean, he didn't have a choice. He kind of had to play the Maui. He was kind of locked into it. He just had to pray that there wasn't some way to knock out the Maui that turn.
So now
And to
we
be
are
fair,
on. Go
there's a
ahead.
decent amount of options for him to have had there, but I think I think he inked a couple of mines, so I think he was down to only a couple of copies of like strength, and then I think he still had his full play set of storm, so it wasn't unreasonable to expect to have some kind of removal there, but obviously hitting off the top deck is nice.
Yeah, no, that top deck was really good. I think he even had strength in his hand prior to that. I think he
Oh,
drew another Calhoun, I believe. But I may be wrong. It looked like it. I can't really remember or can't really couldn't tell because it's just slightly hidden. But now we're going into game 3 with George going first here. Um, it looks like we do get to see a couple 1 drops here in Briar's hand. Seeing that Daisy and seeing a couple cards that does quest for 2. See a decent line here going through. For Jorge or George here, we didn't get to really see a lot, but he's looks like I think he only put back a couple cards, I believe. But there's not much probably put back unless if you just want to see some good your popsicles, vitalospheres, things like that to help you kind of get closer to ramping up quicker.
yeah, I think notably he just wants to hit like popsicle into any kind of ramp into super goof. So if he sees that, um, that's like what he that's his like optimal line. I think he does. He might be missing his ramp. I'm not entirely sure. I
So
do see the
nope,
super goof. Nope,
he
he's
does
got
have
the sail.
sail. Yeah, he's got sail,
Yeah.
so he can go to that super goof quickly here. And of course we see in Briar's hand we have this Daisy. Of course we get to drop down, and it looks like we have a Shmi, a Lilo, and some other 3 drops here that can be good coming down. We do see George inking that one and only Let It Go, um, but that's okay. It's not really needed right now. There's nothing you can really do with it. It's probably one of the better cards to ink here in the early game. And we do get to draw a card. Of course, he did draw, I believe that was Develop Your Brain. And we get to play that Develop Your Brain because we do get to ink a 1 additional card this turn.
Gotta love Sail the Azurite. So definitely one of the better cards to have come out in recent sets.
Definitely. It looks like Briar, starting off his turn, drew the top deck of a second Daisy. So now he gets to potentially drop this Cindy and this Daisy. So questing for 3 instead of 4 for the following turn, or for only 2. So which is good here. Just figuring out what to ink. But that second Daisy can be pretty big here, and we do get to see that Cindy and Daisy um, being played. So not playing that Shmi or that Lilo in hand, and probably going to be playing it that on either turn 4 so he can drop both of them down the following turn.
Yeah, daisies are super annoying here because they just don't get banished by the super goof, and it's a good thing and a bad thing because it forces like giving super goof more targets is not a good thing, but the fact that they get to stick around for extra turns is super good. Um, and it gets to push a lot of lore here really fast, which is nice.
Yeah, definitely gets to push that lure, and of course the daisy having that effect of putting cards at the bottom is good. And only giving him either because he only has George only has high characters in his deck. The only one that's really low is going to be that Tipo, which is the 2 cost. And then of course you have the Goofy and the Gramotala at 4, which he can play now, but in that earlier game, it's going to be rough to deal with some of those higher characters and not being able to play them and having to ink those characters going in so that he doesn't get to play those later game and he doesn't have to worry about them. But we do get to see
Looks
this
like we're thinking of
Jafar come down
yeah. It looks like we're
and
thinking
getting
about
something.
attacking. Yeah, I don't hate attacking the super goof. I think it could have you could have easily done either thing. It would have been probably okay. Um, so he just decides to get it off the board so it doesn't give George a bunch of lore for free, essentially.
Yeah, and then we do get to see this Maui drop down, knocking out one of those daisies and taking it out here. That's pretty much all he has to do and can do. While Briar here looks like he's got some options here. It looks like we have a Pete so that we don't have, so he can't so George can't really like play any actions to ramp up any quicker. And then of course we do get to see this Lilo and Shmi could be dropped here, and it looks like we do have a dock in hand as well. So he could play both of those options to then get some card advantage later on. But we do get to see this Lilo being dropped, inking the Shmi, debating what else to do here. And he decides to play that dock to get 2 more cards in his hand and draws a Rapunzel and a 3rd Daisy.
These days he's putting in a lot of work, especially hitting that Be Prepared. Oof.
Yeah, hitting a lot of actions, and he said a few characters here, but most of those actions are definitely good being put to the bottom. Um, she is definitely putting in some work. Of course, that Maui takes out that Daisy and makes it basically a boat snack, pretty much, you know. It's not a chicken, but it is a duck. And now we have this half shark here coming down, trying to scare Briar here, trying to get this actions coming down. And it doesn't look like there's a lot of actions in the discard here. There's only 2, and not really being able to either wipe the board or being able to gain lore and make your opponent lose lore. So he's not too terribly worried about it, but it's still something to be scared of at some point.
Yeah, I think notably he still has this Pirate's Life from the beginning of the game in his hand. So I think he's gonna try and sing it next turn, and hopefully, if he finds a Be Prepared somewhere, can use that to reset the board and hopefully claw back into this game.
Yeah, and Briar does decide here to quest with the Jafar, Lilo, and the Doc to gain him 5 lore, just to help him get closer to that end goal of 20 lore. And hopefully, just even though he gets to knock stuff out with both of those Mauis, the Half Shark and the Rush Maui here, being able to take out 2 of his characters is big, but it's okay here because we do have this Lilo that does get to come back from the discard, so he doesn't care if that gets knocked out. And then we also have this Jafar here that has 3 strength, so it can put damage on whatever is challenging it and potentially putting it closer to being knockout range or knocking it out completely, which is good. We do get to see this Pirate's Life being played, so now George gets to gain 3 lore and makes Briar lose 2 lore, and then getting to challenge this Jafar, knocking it out, and grabbing back that Pirate's Life here so he can play it the following turn.
Yeah, it's a good play on George's part. I think there you would really hope to play a Be Prepared or something. Obviously not having it, so he makes the best of what he has, being able to hopefully reuse this Pirate's Life a bunch to keep Briar off of that 20 lore here.
Yeah, now we're Briar's deciding to play this Lilo or not, and now knowing that George has this Pirate's Life, Lilo is not really a card that you want to put down right now because it does come in exerted, and that Shark does get to knock it out, and that guarantees George having Pirate's Life every turn. But we do get to see this dock, drawing a couple cards here, and maybe grabbing some good cards that may be needed. Plays down a Shmee from one of the cards he drew, and hoping that it sticks the following turn, and he can either quest with it or challenge something if needed to be.
Interesting that Briar has a Pete in his hand and could have used that this turn too. I don't hate the play of play the Pete and actually quest, and it doesn't really matter. Like the Shark no longer matters anymore because sure he can play like he can't play hard. He can't play Pirate's Life, and so he won't be able to get it back with a challenge. And I think nearly everything. Uh, I guess the Daisy doesn't, and the Dock didn't. But it puts pressure on this Shark even more than it already did. If he just draws like a mine and can blow up this Shark to get it off the board, because he really needs to get this Shark off the board. It's like the one thing that's really stopping him from playing the game right now.
Yeah, that Shark is definitely holding Briar back, but we do get to see this Lilo this time, which is pretty big here, and we do get to see this Pete being dropped now, so that that Shark is not really usable this following turn. It does get its effect off, but it doesn't get to use those cards it gets to bring back. Um, we do get to see this Shmee questing for 2, trying to inch his way up to 20 here, but of course when you have 2 Mauis and a Sisu here, it's kind of a tough spot for Briar, trying to figure out what he can do. He's just going to try to race here, but instead we do get to see this Scar knocking out the Shmee and the Lilo and readying itself back up and letting the Sisu and Half Shark quest so that George can get to 20 quicker here.
Yeah, this is looking pretty dire for Briar here. He's really got to find a way out of the position. Finally finds Strength of a Raging Fire to deal with this Shark. I'm not sure it's going to be enough though.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's going to be enough because George can still quest for 5, which does get him closer here. And this Lawrence and Pete not going to really do a whole lot. It can probably challenge into the Sisu, but really nothing you can do elsewise. You're hoping they stick around the following turn, and you can maybe quest and go for a game here. But this board on George's side is just a nasty looking board.
There's a chance that if George doesn't get to deploy any other characters here, any quests, Briar could take even trades on this Sisu and this Scar right now and kind of reset the board a little bit and hope to play the game from there. We do see a Be Prepared in George's hand though, so it's tough no matter what happens here.
Well, he does get to play the character. He does get to play this half shark and questing for 5 with the Sisu and the Scar. So trading wise is going to be a little rough. But we do have, I believe it's a B prep, and I can't see what the other card in George's hand was. But Briar just top decked a mine,
Yeah.
and that was pretty much it. Nothing he can really do there.
Yeah, it's a tough loss for Amber Steel there. George, that Scar I think caught people off guard all day long during this event. And I think people were super surprised to see it because I don't know that a ton of Ruby Sapphire players are playing it right now. Maybe as a one of. So it's good to see. So congrats to George. He played really well through the entire event this day, and I will see him move on to the semis.
Yeah, it's congrats to him. He did a great job. I mean, definitely reading what the meta was in the local scene and trying to see what cards are good against what everybody else is playing. And he did really well, picking up those Scars, picking up those Super Goose, were a very smart decision and got him to where he is and going into the semifinals and potentially going to the finals itself. But we will see what happens in the next one in the semifinals. So stay tuned for the semifinals, and we will see you that time. So thank you for joining us, and we will see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.